Hello folks, welcome to this week's very special Homebrew Wednesday. What's so special about it, I hear you say? Well, I'm going to be doing my first all grain. Dung! Mini all grain folks. It's all going to be done on the stove, but I'm going to be using grains. Now, I'm going to approach this from a point of view of somebody who's never done an all grain before, doesn't really know what they're doing. So if you're one of those people out there that have been doing extract beers for donkeys and donkeys and donkeys, doesn't know what mash is, doesn't know what sparging is, then this is the video for you. Okay, the reason I'm saying that is because all I've done is I have purchased a pack, and we'll go through the ingredients just in a second after this introduction. It's basically a Crafty Brew starter pack, so it's all done on the stove. You get your grains, you get your hops in there, you get a packet of US-05, which is great because it's a decent yeast, that one. US-05 on its own, the yeast on its own, costs about £2.50, something like that. Is it good value for money? I think so. As a beginner, it's fairly decent value for money. It's £9.99 at the moment at brewuk.co.uk, and I'm sure there are other websites available that may or may not sell them. Go and take a look. Visit craftybrews.co.uk and you'll see the range of beers and things that they've got on sale there. This one is a session pale ale. Hopefully it'll come out alright. This is in the stove topper range. Everything's going to be done on the stove. A little bit nervous because I've never done one before, but I'm fairly sure I know what to do. It's not going to be that difficult, folks. So we'll go through the ingredients and I'll be there every step of the way. It might be a little bit choppy, we'll be all over the place a bit. It won't be very professional because it's me, innit? You know what I mean? But hopefully you'll get some idea as to how difficult it is as a beginner, and you'll see it's not really that difficult after all. So let's make a start then. I'll show you all the instructions and then we'll get on with it, and I'll see you at the other end. Alright? Ta-da! Alright guys, so what we've got here then, as you can see, is instructions. I'll read through those in a minute. I haven't really had a chance to do so yet. We've got our grains. It just says grain pack there. And we've got hot pack 1, hot pack 2, no rinse sanitizer, and the US-05, which comes with it as well. All pretty bog standard stuff, I think. I think this is going to be fairly simple, folks, to be honest with you. All I will say is there's no indication in this pack as to what's in hot pack 1 or hot pack 2, or even what grains are in here. It doesn't tell you anything on the instructions from what I can gather. If we look down here, it doesn't really say on there what grains are using or what hops. So I'm guessing they're making this for people that are just wanting to do it from scratch and make it as easy as they can. But the good thing about this, of course, is it should be doable by anyone, so hopefully it will turn out alright. Okay, so if we're going to follow the instructions to the letter, what we've got here is we've got the no rinse sanitizer. So I'm just going to chuck that in there, and then I'll give it a little bit of a stir around. I suspect it's probably VWP, something like that. And also at the side here I've got my Star Sand spray, because I'm not going to be able to fit everything in there. Right, so the second step is to heat 3 litres of water in a pot to around 75 degrees centigrade. Here, as you can see, I've got my trusty thermometer. I'll use that to measure the temperature, and then we chuck the grains in, and we've got to try and keep the temperature around about 75. Now, for your benefit, I've measured out the grains here, and there's, as you can see, there's 873 grams of grains there. Doesn't tell you that on the instructions. Again, you know, there is no information at all as to how much of what hop, type of grains or anything like that involved in this. This is really just for beginners who don't really care. Oh, look, 872. Who don't really care what they're chucking in, but they just want to try it out. As you can see, folks, I've got the temperature up to 75 and it's going, so I'm just going to turn it off the heat and chuck the grains in. Alright. Right, so the temperature's at 65 and there's the grains in there. I'm going to put the lid on and I'm going to leave it for an hour. Right, let's just get the close up. Right, so we come to the end of the mash. For mash gets smashed. Where's my spoon gone? I've lost my spoon, folks. Oh, there it is over here. Look, let me just get over here. Get my spoon. I've managed to hit my temperature okay and keep it there or thereabouts, not too far off. So what we've got to do now, in the second pan, while I'm leaving that there with the lid on, 4 litres of water, bring that up to about 75 degrees. Hello. So while all that's going on in the kitchen of doom, I've got here Ball English Ale kit, dry hopped, with 25 grams of Cascade. Very pleasant. Right, so while we need to get that temperature up, we also need to put these grains back on here and get them up to around about 75. So I'll do that right now. Right, so the idea, folks, is to get this water up to 75 degrees, get this up to there or thereabouts. That's probably going to have to be around about, yeah, 75 degrees. Get this up to there or thereabouts, okay? This needs to go into another vessel, and then what we do is we sieve the contents of this into that big pan, and then we use the liquid from this, from the third vessel, to pour over the grains into this big pot. Alright, so that's the old spargy, folks. Do a little bit of spargy. So here we are then, folks. As you can see in here, I've got all the grains. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck the water over the top of that from the secondary pot. Alright? Right, so I've run the liquid through the grains twice, and I've just let it finish in the other pot there, just straining it there. And what's little, there's only going to be a little bit left, but what is left I will put back in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn the stove on, and we're going to bring this up to a rolling boil before we put the first lot of hops on. And while we're waiting for the rolling boil, folks, what do? We have another one of these. Right, folks, so we've got a boil going, just about, near enough for a rolling boil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chuck in the hot pack one. Here it is, just chuck that in. There we go. Out you come, you buggers. Make sure they're all out. Yep, they're all out. Give it a little bit of a stir. And the instructions say to let this go for 60 minutes, but I'm going to do it for 45 minutes, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Let's put that on for 45 minutes. Because towards the end, 15 minutes, I'm going to chuck in some Irish moss. There we go, teaspoon of that, should do the trick. So let it run for 45 minutes, we'll chuck in the Irish moss for 15 minutes, and then we're done. Right, so the timer's just gone off, so all I've got to do is take a teaspoon of that, stick it in there, and then put it on again for another 15 minutes. Right folks, here we are, we're approaching the end now. We're all done here. I'm just going to turn off the stove. There we go. Now I'm just going to take this off the boil by moving it over there. I'm going to put in hop pack 2. Okay, so that goes in there. There we go. Again, I don't really know what's in there, folks. They're not telling us what hops they've put in there. I can only guess by smell. But you know, I could be wrong, so I don't really want to say. All we do, give that a bit of a stir, leave that to steep, and that's it. We're all done, folks. Now I need to put this pan, this big pan here, into the sink, into some cold water to bring the temperature down. Now we need the temperature around about 20 degrees, because what we're going to do then is we're going to chuck the yeast in. We only need half a packet. That's the good thing about the fact that they've chucked in a packet of US-05. You only need half a packet because it is only a small batch, and we can use the other half a packet for another small batch. So there we go. What I'm going to do then is I'm going to take this to one side, cool it down, put it into the fermenting vessel, chuck half a packet of yeast in, and we're done. No point me showing you all that really, folks, is there? It's the same old stuff we usually do. Hopefully this has been of some use to you and you found it interesting. Cheers! So there you have it, folks. That's basically the Crafty Brews introduction to all grain pack. Hopefully you found that useful. It's really for people that want to do all grain and haven't really got a clue what they want to do or how they're going to do it. Does come with some fairly decent instructions. However, you know, there are good points and bad points. Good points, you know, the instructions are pretty good. It tells you exactly what you need to do. It doesn't really make it clear though before you buy the product that you're gonna need 3 vessels. 2 of those vessels are going to be used for sort of straining water in and out kind of thing. Fortunately, I had a third one lying around. I just used a gallon fermenting bucket, and I think they probably should make that a little bit more clearer. You do need 3 fermenting vessels. Sorry, not 3 fermenting vessels. 3 vessels by which to boil water in and strain and that kind of jazz. You do need fairly big ones too. There's a fair amount of water there that's going to be boiled up and mashed in and that kind of jazz, so you do need to make sure you've got big pots or misses. So yeah, the instructions are fairly good. Another good point, I guess, is that essentially you're doing a mini mash and a boil on the stove. You're doing an all grain kit, I suppose. You're doing an all grain beer, and that's a positive. It's a step in the right direction, isn't it, folks? The other good thing is you do get some good ingredients from what I can gather in there. However, as I said, this leads to the bad points. Bad points. It takes a little longer than when you do your extract beers. Of course, you expect that. There's a few more complicated steps in there. Your malt extract, you can just boil it on the stove and it's done. You ain't got to worry about mashing and sparging or anything like that. However, it's not that complicated, folks. Now I've done it, it's a piece of piss, really. I mean, it's not difficult, it's dead easy. The end product, though, will be the deciding factor as to whether I carry on doing this or not, I think. It does take a little bit longer, and I'm an impatient sod at the best of times, but we'll see how we get on. So the good thing is, one of the bad things is that it takes a little bit longer than your extract beers. The second thing is, and I've mentioned this already, it doesn't really tell you what's in the pack. It doesn't tell you what kind of hops you're using, doesn't tell you how many in grams, although obviously if you take it out of the packet you can weigh that yourself, as I did with the grains earlier, just to show you. And I can understand why they've done that. They don't want you nicking their recipes, because then you ain't got to buy their stuff anymore, have you? A little bit silly, but you know, if you're going to be a little bit anal about it, from my perspective, you know, I sort of know what I'm doing, and that kind of thing just annoys me, because you know, if you want to stop people from nicking your recipes, then they're not going to buy your kit. They're going to try it once, and they're not going to buy it anymore, because they're just going to go away and find other recipes on the internet that they can do themselves, and you're sort of kind of defeating the object, maybe. So yeah, that's a negative point for me. It's also a little bit messy, folks. If you're used to extract brewing, it's going to be a little bit messy, because you've got loads of grains there and you're going to need to get rid of them. You're going to need a decent sieve as well. Yeah, you're going to need a fair amount of stuff just to do a very small all grain beer, which is obviously what we're doing in this case. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. It depends on how it turns out, I guess. But fortunately enough, I had a sieve or 2 lying around that I could use. Once you've got it to the point where you've done your mash and you've done your sparge, the rest of it is pretty much like you're doing an extract brew anyway, because all you're doing is you're boiling what's left, the liquid, up on the stove, chucking your hops in, and that's it. job done, isn't it? Dead easy, really, really simple. So hopefully you found this useful, folks. As I said, I could have obviously just done a bog standard recipe myself, but I thought I would approach it from the point of view of somebody who hasn't done all grains before and hasn't got a bloody clue what to do, doesn't know anything about sparging or mashing or what they are. Hopefully these steps will clarify some of that. It really is simple. It's not difficult, folks, and if I can do it, you can do it too. So thank you for that. Obviously we're going to do a beer review in an upcoming Lakey Bloke Homebrew Wednesday, but for the time being I'll see you on the next one. Have a good one, have a few beers, and cheers for now. Get brewing. Ta-da.